What if retirement is the wrong goal? What if it's the wrong thing that we've been striving for and thinking about? Does it really make sense to live to work for 40, 50 years and then start living? Does that make sense? Is that when you have earned the right to enjoy what you're doing, enjoy how you're spending your time, getting the rest that you really need? Do you really need to put in that many decades before you're able to do that? Y I've been thinking about this, and I started thinking about this years ago. I don't wanna wait. I'm 59, I'm gonna be 60 at the end of this year. I don't want to wait to be happy with my life. I don't wanna wait to rest when I need to rest and to heal when I need to heal and to enjoy how I'm spending my time. I don't think we have to wait, right? Now, I know you and we have been talking about burnout. We have been talking about being exhausted, exhausted beyond words. We've been talking about taking breaks, taking sabbaticals. I've shared with you little sneak peeks of some of the current life that I've built as a result of the sabbatical that I took. I've shared elements of my nomadic life and what that looks like and how I've really designed a life around living a freedom based lifestyle as I wanted. And I've spent a lot of time speaking with you about why we need a sabbatical, why we need to talk about our pre-tirement, and why we need to start living life now. I've covered the why. I want to dive in a little more to the how. How do you how do you do that? And again, this isn't like a course or a sermon or something where like I'm preaching from the mountaintops about like all the wisdom and everything that, all with all the answers. I'm going to share what I've learned. I'm going to share what I've experienced, but this is a living, breathing, evolving experience. And I am finding new depths. I'm finding new levels to reach, and I'm figuring things out along the way. And my goal is to keep sharing that with you. So let's talk about pretirement. What is it? As a reminder, it's pretirement is not retirement. Retirement, you're no longer actively generating income, and like deliberately, intentionally generating income. Pre-retirement is about the 10 to 15 years ish before you are ready to retire. And all you know at this point is that you don't want to keep living your life the way you have been for the previous few decades. That you need to do something different now. You want to do something different now. You don't want to wait. You don't want to wait to 65, 67, 70, whatever your number is. And it's about redesigning your life before you get to that retirement goal. And when I say redesign it, that could look there's a lot of things that could look like. It's how you spend your time, how you earn your money. It could be your relationships and what relationships you prioritize and how you interact with them. Things that you do for fun and for joy. It's all of that. It's around building a life that you don't want to or need to escape from, that you're okay with it continuing as it is indefinitely. Why do I talk specifically to Gen X women about this topic of pretirement? Well, first of all, because like chronologically, we're right at that time, right? 10 to 15 years ish before we retire. And as a generation, we have had decades of working hard, decades and decades of being responsible, of working and caregiving and pushing through and like not taking breaks and taking care of everybody else and not prioritizing ourselves. There's been a lot of that in our lives. And I specifically talk to my Gen X younger sisters because my question is, do we really want to spend the next 20 to 30 years like this? Something's got to change, right? And what is that going to be? And how do we want to change? And I don't mean that we're like starting from scratch and getting rid of everything. I don't mean shut down your life completely and move to Bali. Although if you can make that work and you want to make that work, more power to you. But that's not what I'm saying. I think retirement looks different for every person because it really just comes down to what is a real life retirement that you can design for yourself where you feel happy and content and you are still preparing for your future and taking those steps on what the next chapters are going to look like. On top of that, there's a reality check. When we're talking about looking ahead, when we're talking about retirement, there is a significant portion of us who can't retire at 65, maybe even 67 for various reasons. No judgment. We have lived a really intense, resilient, hardworking life. And in spite of that, some of us still will not be appropriately set up to fully retire at the age of 65. Some of us don't want to. Some of us just don't like we just want to keep going as long as we can, and that's perfectly okay. Now, for many of us, it's an income situation where financially we don't have enough, or it's a healthcare matter. We need to make sure that our healthcare is, taken care of. I think it's important to think like maybe we want to work, we want to keep working, we want to keep contributing, we want to keep earning, but not this way, not the grind that we have been doing for so long that has like sapped us of all of our energy and life juice. So we know that we just don't want to keep doing it the way that we've been doing it. So I've been thinking a lot about this. I mentioned that I've talked a lot about the why, and now I want to dig into the how. I am going to be launching a new YouTube show, a show that's going to cover the how, called the Pretirement Project. So this is for you and I, and I'm gonna talk about everything that I've learned and everything that I've experimented along the way. I'm gonna share what's worked, what hasn't worked, what I've tried, what I haven't tried. I'm gonna get your stories. I'm gonna keep doing my research because I've been researching this topic ongoing for the better part of a year now. We're gonna talk about work. What does work look like? What does generating income look like? Money, like all aspects of money, not income, obviously. Budgeting, how are we going to budget in this new season of life, and what does that look like without taking away our freedom? What does expanding our savings look like, and investing and make sure we're doing all the right things? We're going to talk about energy. Where do we want to put our energy, and where are we going to put our energy, and what's working for us and what's not? We're going to talk about health, taking care of ourselves. I'm definitely seeing, the older that I get, the more that I'm seeing that this is going to be a critical factor in what not just my retirement looks like, but then as it eases into retirement, whenever that happens, health is going to be such a leading factor of how that plays out, right? Community is huge. We're going to talk about community, the how-tos behind that. Who's going to support us during this time? Retirement is a time for really deepening and strengthening your community, your support system, and who's your village to lean on for that next season, especially those of us who are solo agers, those of us who don't have children. Not saying that having a partner and children is any guarantee of having support and help as you age, but for us agers, it's even more urgent. So we're going to dig into that. How do we set up the appropriate support system now so that we're not alone in this in later years? We're going to talk about purpose. What makes us feel like we have an impact now in our retirement, and how's that going to lead into fun, joy? We're going to absolutely talk about that, and freedom. So the Pretirement Project is around all of those things, but it's going to dig into the how. And it's starting out with this YouTube show. We're going to make it a 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional live situation where I'm going to start looking for fellow Gen X sisters who want to build this pre-retirement period together. They want to figure it out together. Yes, using the structure and the frameworks and the recommendations and everything that I will be sharing, but then how do you bring it to life for your life? And how can we lean on each other to help with that? And how can we continue to grow and evolve this approach? So, as I mentioned, I'm living it with you. I'm at a certain level. I'm really, really pleased with my retirement right now. I've been talking in recent videos about how I am ready to go bigger and deeper in what this life looks like. So I'm going to be figuring that out alongside you and adding it to my plan and my pre-retirement design. So we'll work through all of that, all of those pieces together. So as I wrap up this thought, I have a question for you, and I want you to put aside expectations. I want you to put aside being too realistic or too pragmatic. Like, I want you to put the lens that we usually use as Gen X women, the lens that we usually use to evaluate everything and to figure things out. I want you to remove that lens and put it aside for a moment. And I just want you to answer the question: if you didn't have to wait until retirement, what would you want your life to look like right now? If you didn't have those, you know, expectations, responsibilities hanging over you on what you need for retirement, what would you want your life, your pre-retirement to look like right now? As I hear your stories, as I hear your comments, as I get your questions, I will be incorporating those into the Pretirement Project. I'm going to use your challenges and your questions to make sure that I'm fleshing out the information as thoroughly and as valuable. I want valuable as possible to make sure that you get what you need through this Pretirement Project. My name is Amy Palmer. I am your Gen X big sister. Let's design the best, most kick-ass retirement together and start living the life now that you've always dreamed of.